and welcome to another edition of Books I Read Because of TikTok. This time we are chatting about the Lakefront Billionaires series by Lauren Asher. And funnily enough, Lauren Asher was an author that I actually discovered off of Instagram. I saw clips of, one of those like really quick reels with quotes about her Throttled series. I think it's called Dirty Air, about the Dirty Air series for the first book, and absolutely fell in love with it. If you don't know, the Dirty Air series follows F1. It follows the drivers and the woman that they're falling in love with. It's told in dual point of views. It was a different type of sports romance for me because I typically tend to read more like football, hockey, mainly football and hockey. Soccer will occasionally come into play there as well. But usually just kind of like as an aside, I don't understand hockey. Sorry, I don't understand soccer in general. But I have read some books like Cleat Cute, which is very centered around soccer, and I absolutely loved it. But yeah, Lauren Asher is not a new author to me. It was not something that I had never read before or I didn't know. So going into Lakefront Billionaires, I went in knowing that I probably would enjoy it. It is an author that I have read most of the series of. I think I have one or two books in Dirty Air that I need to finish, which, now I'm kind of like, I should prioritize it. Like just finish all the series I haven't finished in the past little bit. But I also needed something new. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try Lakefront Billionaires. People are saying it's good. People are enjoying it. And, spoiler alert here, I enjoyed the series. It wasn't my favorite. Like, I didn't love it the same way that I loved her Dirty Air series and, reading about sports romance. But I know that I am 100% a sports romance girly. That is me to my core. I love a good sports romance book. So it's hard for me to, when you have a story that doesn't necessarily follow that, it's not necessarily something that I'm going to absolutely love. But, we read it. All that to say, I still enjoyed the books. So Lakefront Billionaires is currently 2 books. The first book is Love Redesigned, and then the second book is Love Unwritten. For both of the books, they were pretty solid, like 3-star reads for me. Love Redesigned follows Julian and Dahlia. And Julian is just he knows that Dahlia does not really love him. They're definitely what you would describe like frenemies. Their families are very close-knit. They spend a lot of time together, like going over to each other's houses and having Sunday dinners together and all of that. But the reality is that Julian and Dahlia are always very competitive with each other. So Julian actually believes that if he ever caught on fire, Dahlia Munoz would fan the flames with a smile. And when she returns to Lake Wisteria, where they all live, he fully intends to avoid her. And Julian builds houses. He's this contractor, carpenter. He does a lot of like building. He took his family's business from this small kind of design and architecture business to this really big firm. He's buying up these massive houses in like their Lake Wisteria community and turning them into demolishing a lot of them and then making them into other houses as well. And he has taken his family's company from what they once were to rebranded it to call it Lopez Luxury. And he's making these like beautiful modern homes for people to live in the community. And everyone loves him for it. And Dahlia, she moved away. She describes Julian as her childhood rival and family frenemy. When she's returning to Lake Wisteria, she's vowing that she's going to stay away with him because she recently had a broken engagement. And, she is perfectly going along on that plan. Julian's staying in his corner. She's staying in hers until Julian offers her something that she can't resist. And that is this beautiful house in Lake Wisteria that she's absolutely obsessed with. It's this historic home. And as an interior designer, her whole thing is finding the charm in these old homes and making them be upgrading them and making them be so beautiful, but still maintaining that old world charm, all that history that's in it, matching the baseboards and everything that's going on the ceilings. And I'm completely losing all my words when it comes to historic homes, but like crown molding, and making sure that it's like still preserved in these homes. So, when Julian tells her, hey, I have this old home and we could work on it together, she doesn't really want to, but it's an offer she can't resist. And what she doesn't really know at first is that Julian is only offering to do this because his mother who cares very deeply for Dahlia, is trying to push him to help her out of her depression and her rut and get her spark back after her broken engagement. And he will do just about anything for his mother. So he's like, fine, I will do it. I will help her out with this under duress. But the thing is, Julian pushes all the timelines for the house. He tries to get it built quicker than it needs to and everything done. Like, he's like, clear the schedules for everything else. This is our top priority to get finished, because he just wants Dahlia gone. But he soon realizes that he actually maybe doesn't want this project to end so quickly. He wants Dahlia to stick around. He wants her to be there. So they come to a temporary truce, and then they kind of fall into not really friends with benefits, but kind of friends with benefits relationship. And they soon realize that, maybe we are perfect for each other. Maybe we're not actually enemies. Maybe we're just friends, or maybe even more. And, they end up falling in love with each other. They have conversations about reasons why her engagement ended, which is so horrible. Like, honestly, I absolutely hated her fiance so much, and his family, for the reason why her engagement ends. And they talk about it, and like it truly is absolutely horrible. But you really do get to see Julian and Dahlia come to terms with their past and grow and get better, and then fall in love with each other. And you also hear these stories of them doing this house and building it, and it's like, this house is absolutely stunning. Like, I wish I could see it, because what they describe and the things that she finds in it is just so beautiful. So that essentially is the story. I do have to say, I enjoyed it. It was a quick read for me. It was entertaining from start to finish. I was like, oh, what are Julian and Dahlia up to now? Like, where are they going? It's a wide cast of characters, because you do have, it's a very tight-knit community, and you do have them talking about their siblings, and their parents are a little bit meddlesome, and you have like their family friends, and the community is also very invested in them, because as much as Lake Wisteria is described as a small community, I think it's also quite a little bit described as like a large or medium-ish community. It's also extremely tight-knit. So I did find that really interesting as well. But it was like a small town romance that was not a small town romance, but it had a lot of charm in it. And like I said, it was a solid 3-star read for me. I don't have anything negative to say about it, but I'm not like, this is a book that everyone needs to read. Like, drop what you're doing and read this now. And I have had other books that I feel that way towards. So that is kind of where I'm falling with Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. The second book in the series is Love Unwritten, and it follows Raphael and Ellie. So Raphael is actually Julian from book one's cousin, and he went through this horrible breakup. He divorced his wife. He has a young son as well, who is 9 or 10, I believe, in the story. And he just kind of retreats into himself. And it is a little bit talked about in book one about how Raphael, I guess, just kind of like packed up all his stuff and moved up into a little bit outside of the community and decided to live on this farm. And he has a whole bunch of like stray animals and stuff on the farm, who he has rescued and he takes care of, and they just live there with him and his son. We also know, going into the story, that his son Nico is very, very musical, and he enjoys a lot of, he like will pick up an instrument and will play it. He's a bit of like a prodigy that way. And towards the end of the book, towards the end of book one, it is alluded that Raphael has this nanny looking after Nico named Ellie, who he is absolutely, everyone in the family thinks that he's kind of like in love with, and they love Ellie, and they're like, Ellie's amazing, and Raphael is just kind of there. So it was an interesting read for sure. It picks up with Raphael and Ellie living in this house. She is a live-in nanny for him. And we discover that Ellie has been burned in the past by people. She used to be a songwriter. She had a friend who also came from Lake Wisteria who absolutely stole all of her songwriting. And as her friend has blown up and is now this like international superstar, Ellie's name is nowhere associated with anything that she's done, because this girl just took her work and ran with it, and gave her no credit for it. So Ellie's feeling a little bit downtrodden. She's working there with Raphael. Raphael is like this grumpy boss. He's determined that he's not going to get close to anyone after he was burned by his ex-wife. He is also a billionaire, similar to Julian in book one. They actually became billionaires at the same time because they built a company together and they ended up selling it, I believe, for billions of dollars. But yeah, he's just kind of like a recluse living up on his farm with his animals and his child. And something happens to Nico, his son, and he ends up firing Ellie because he believes that she is at fault for it. And then when Nico refuses to speak to him anymore, they have a big trip planned for his birthday, I believe it was, or he got a trip for Christmas. And when Nico no longer wants to go on this trip with his father, he starts asking like Julian and everyone else if they want to go with him instead of his dad, because he's so mad that Ellie is no longer around. Raphael kind of has no choice but to go back and beg Ellie to come back into their lives and be a nanny again and go on this trip with him. And she agrees. And unbeknownst to Raphael, Ellie has always kind of had a crush on him. So they went to high school together. She was a couple years behind him. And, she was absolutely obsessed with him. She, just like from what she saw of him, she thought he was really attractive. What she heard about him, she had a crush on him. And she just kind of tamped it down even as she was working for him. She was like, this guy is absolutely miserable right now. He is absolutely horrible to me, but he is still super attractive. And she, of course, wonders what happened to the old Raphael. But they end up going on this beautiful trip to Hawaii together for Nico, that Nico received as a gift. And she ends up slowly starting to see Raphael kind of like come out of his shell. He is desperate to connect with his child. He's desperate to have some form of relationship with him and for things to be okay. And Ellie kind of helps him with that. So there's a scene where they start building a sandcastle together, and she's like, no, go like talk to him or like invite him over and you guys could do this. She kind of pushes them a little bit together as well. And then there's some really cute, like kind of like competitive scenes where Nico goes and gives her a flower, and Raphael feels as if he needs to give her a flower for her here as well. We also see Raphael doing some really generous things for her because he knows that she is struggling. So a big one is she does not like flying. She's scared of planes, and he comforts her through an entire trip. They have to take a helicopter ride from one island to another, and he rents a yacht instead so that they could boat across instead of her having to be on this plane again, and even that is a whole other thing because the yacht he rents, is probably like one of the biggest yachts she's ever seen, so that there's like not so much like waves and stuff like that, and it's a little bit of a smoother sail for her. So essentially, like, Raphael really, really shows his love for her in very subtle ways. Big gestures, but subtle ways, as opposed to saying, like, I love you. And Ellie is receptive to it, and they soon decide that they actually are going to maybe pursue a relationship. And it only works out because Ellie happens to get a chance to write for a major singer-songwriter who is going on tour in Europe, and they make the decision that she is going to stop being Nico's nanny, and Raphael really encourages her to pursue her dream and get back out there and become a singer-songwriter again. And she goes on this tour, and they have this beautiful relationship that just kind of blossoms from there, including, you know, Raphael doing some beautiful things for her. He takes her, a big one is he like flies to London with her because she's so worried about, for her initial flight. He flies her family out at one point because she mentions missing home. He puts flowers in the home for her. It's just like a really sweet story. And, you know, Love Unwritten was very similar to Love Redesigned for me. I enjoyed reading it from start to finish. I was intrigued by it. The characters kept me engaged, and I enjoyed it. So it was a 3-star read. Obviously, as I mentioned, the series is not one that I loved as much as the Dirty Air series. I did not was not like what happens next, and it did take me a little bit of time to like get into it and like fully connect with it, but it is a good series. Like I mentioned, you know, I read it over like a week, and it really wasn't that bad. It was just a good romance book for me to read. It just did not capture me and hook me in the way that some other books have by Lauren Asher, as well as by other authors in general. But all that to say, I definitely still recommend the series. If you're looking for something that's like lighthearted, a little bit of billionaire romance, you know, it has some really good tropes in there as well. Like, it's just, in both of the books in the series so far, I really do think it's a good kind of option and starting point. And like, you can't really go wrong with them. They were a really good read for me. So yeah, so that is essentially my thoughts on the Lakefront Billionaires series by Lauren Asher. General thoughts, 3 stars overall. I believe that there is a third book coming out. Yes, there is. There's a third book coming out in 2025, which I probably will pick up and read as well. If you haven't already, I do have volume 1 of this series out already, featuring Becca Mack's hockey romance series. I have read the first 3 books in it. Book 4 is actually coming out in a couple of weeks in that fall with me, and I probably will be reading that as well. Most likely not as like its own standalone video, but I am going to an event where she will be talking and receiving a copy of the book as well. So I will be sharing my thoughts on that in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, please let me know in the comments if you have read the Lakefront Billionaire series, if you have enjoyed it, as well as just kind of what you think I should read next. Which popular series should I dive into? I will also have a poll up for that as well. I am kind of leaning towards the Letters of Enchantment series because I do want to read more fantasy, because I've realized that I really enjoy it, but I don't dive into it very often. But personally for me, it's kind of between 3 books. It's either diving into Letters of Enchantment, doing the Butcher and Blackbird, Leather and Lark series. It's called Ruthless something. I can't really remember. I'll put it down here for you guys. Or diving into the Magnolia Parks universe. But I feel like I need time for Magnolia Parks, because I know that's like 5 books and I'm trying to figure out like how exactly it works, because I know there's Magnolia Parks and then there's Daisy Hates, and I'm like, do we read them in order? Like, I'm so confused. when it comes to those books, in all honesty, guys. But all that to say, please let me know in the comments what books you think I should read next, or just feel free to leave it in the poll that I will have up very shortly. And yeah, until next time, like, comment, subscribe. I love to have you guys here, and I hope you guys have an amazing day. Bye.